Hey, this is Andrew Brown from ExamPro, and in this video, we'll be covering how to create a basic model-driven app, or specifically, a simplified version of the Innovation Challenge model-driven app we showed earlier. So, as we've mentioned before, model-driven apps are built using Microsoft Dataverse, and if we click on Tables, you will see a list of tables ready for you to use for common activities or scenarios. The most common data tables user account and contacts, because when you are doing anything that involves customers, these will most likely come into play. You can choose to use them or not, but you'll see that they're comprehensive. You can add to them or you can edit them in your app, so you've got that starting point. So let's click on Solutions and click on Innovation Challenge. As you can see, our Innovation Challenge currently has no objects, so we'll need to create some. If we recall, the Innovation Challenge had 3 tables: Challenge, Ideas, and Team Projects. We'll only be creating the Challenge and Ideas tables for this simplified version. Let's click on the New button, then towards Table. So for the display name, this will be Challenge. We can enable attachments if we want. Click on Advanced Options. And here we have many options and boxes we can select, such as track changes, setting up SharePoint document management, and so on. But what we want to select is the Create New Activity. This will create a timeline that's going to be in the middle. Now that we have a table created, we're going to need to create some of the columns that were in the Innovation Challenge app. So let's click on Columns under the Schema box. As you can see, there's already a list of columns in the Power Apps environment for common use cases, such as created by, created on, modified by, owner, and so on. You can set up all kinds of ownership and security and permissions, which allows you to control that at a very granular level. If we recall from the Innovation Challenge app, it had columns like description, duration, accept new ideas until, and communicate via. These aren't included in the common columns that Power Apps has provided, so we'll need to create them and customize them similarly to the app. Click on New Column. Give the display name as description. The data type will be text, and we want the multiple lines of text to be rich text. Click on Save. We'll now need to create the Accept New Ideas Until column, so click on New Column again. The display name is Accept New Ideas Until. Use the Data Type drop-down menu to select date and time, and we'll select date only. Then click on Save. The next column we'll add is the duration column, so click on New Column. The display name is duration, weeks in brackets, and we want the data type to be number, and select whole number. Click on Save. Click on New Column again. This column is the Communicate Via column. The data type will be choice. And we want to choose the Selecting Multiple Choices is Allowed checkbox. And on the bottom, we want to select New Choice. The display name will be Communication. Here, we'll be making the 3 choices. The first one is Email. Click on New Choice. Label the second choice as Teams. Then the last label is Phone. We can add color to the boxes to make them a bit more visually appealing and easier to distinguish by selecting the box on the left. After that's done, click on Save. Next, we have to sync this choice with the communication choice that we just created, so search for that and select Communication. Save that as well. Okay, now let's create the Ideas table. Click on New. Click on Table. The display name is Idea, and we also want to have the same features as the first table, so we'll click on the Creating a New Activity checkbox so we can have that timeline of activities in it. Let's add a column to the Idea table called Investment Required. So, same process. Click on New, then click on Column. The display name is Investment Required. For the data type, it will be Currency. Click Save. You can make the app as complex as you want by adding in as many tables and different things to it. So, the next thing we're going to do is create something called a lookup column for the Idea table. This links these two together from the Idea table back to the originating Challenge table. So we'll click on New, then select Column. We'll name this Origin Challenge. The data type will be Lookup. And the related table will be Challenge. Click on Save. So if we click on Relationships from the Schema box, we should be able to see the Origin Challenge that we created between the 2 tables. The Challenge and Idea tables are linked together through their relationships. You can also create relationships here on the top left, such as many-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. A lot of the work is already done for you with the intersecting tables behind the scenes, so you won't have to worry too much about that. The next component we want to look at is views. So click on Views in the Idea table, then click on Active Ideas. This is where you build your app component. You get to choose the columns you want and do the filtering process. This is a drag and drop interface, so you can drag in the columns, such as the investment required column we just created, and we can add in the origin challenge into the view, organize the columns, and resize to your fitting. We can also add and edit filters and sorting order so that it comes up filtered by certain things you might want to only see. Next, click on Save As, then click on Save, and click back to return to the previous screen. The next thing we'll be creating is called a form. So you want to click on the Challenges table and click on Forms. Then you want to click on Information. The form type as main should be fine. This is pretty much the skeleton and structure of the table where you'll be able to enter in information and create challenges. So in here, you're able to add different kinds of columns and headings and things on the page. On the bottom right, let's click on Layout and change it to 3 columns wide, similarly to the original app. You can have 1, 2, or 3 columns. Next, let's drag some of the columns that we made that were for the Innovation Challenge app. Accept new ideas until can be placed on the top right. Communicate via can be placed below the owner. The description rich text box can be placed between the name and owner. We can place the duration on the top right as well. Let's click on the components. We'll be adding a timeline in the column here. And we'll be creating something called a subgrid. So we'll need to scroll through and select the Ideas table for this. And then the default view of active ideas is already set. Click on Done. Move that over to the right column. So let's rename these labels because new SG control with these numbers isn't very helpful. We'll name the subgrid as Ideas, and we'll give the column label section the contributing ideas. We can rename the middle column section to something like Events. You can customize it to however you're liking. There are many features and components you can add to it. So this should be similar enough to the Innovation Challenge app, so we'll click on Save a Copy, then click Save. Next, we'll return to the Innovation app page. This time, we'll be creating a business process flow, which was the bar at the top that takes you from the end to end of the stages and steps of the process. So click on New, drop-down menu to Automation, then Process, and click on Business Process Flow. We'll need to provide a name for it, so Challenge Process seems fine. We'll need to select which table it's related to, so we're using the Challenge table. Click on Create. On the top left, we'll need to add more stages to the business process flow. The Innovation Challenge app had 4 stages, so we'll need to create 3 more stages. You can create as many as you want, but we'll keep it similar to the original. Let's give the stages a name just like the business process flow in the Innovation app. So the first stage is Setup. The second stage is Track. The third stage is Select and Execute. And the fourth stage is Close and Award. In these stages, we'll need to provide a data step for each one of them. So to keep things simple, we'll give duration in weeks for the data fields in all the stages. If you don't have the data step set up, you won't be able to activate the business process flow. You can also add conditions and more complex features, but we'll keep it simple in this app. After adding the data steps, click on Save. Then you can click on Activate. Okay, so the next step is to create the model-driven app. So click on New, drop-down menu to App, then click on Model-Driven App. We'll give the model-driven app a name, so Innovation Challenge app is fine. Click on Create. Next, we'll need to add a page, so click on Add Page, then choose the Dataverse table, then click Next. We'll be adding in the challenge an idea table that we created into our model-driven app. So click on Add Page again, Dataverse table, then click on Next. Find the idea table and click Add. We also want to rename the Group 1 on our app. So let's click on the Navigation tab. Click on Group 1 and rename to something appropriate for the app, like Innovation. Next, we'll need to click on the Automation tab on the left. We'll need to add our business process flow to the app, so we'll click on Challenge Process. After that, click on Save, then click on Publish. After that's done, we'll go back to the Innovation Challenge app screen, and at the top, we'll click on Publish All Customizations. Once you see the Publish All Customizations Succeeded notification, you can navigate back to the Apps tab. Here, you should see the Innovation Challenge app that you have created and customized. So click on that. We'll need to enter in the challenges that were in the original Innovation Challenge app. So click on New. Here, we can see the form that we created in this same structure. We have the business process flow, the name, description, odor, communicate via, and so on, just like the original. So let's enter in some of the information. The name is Connected Operations. We'll give that a description and fill in all the other stuff. After we've finished entering the information in and selecting the things we want, we can click on Save in the top. And once we go back, we can see that a challenge has been added to the active challenges list. We can choose to add more challenges and ideas to the model-driven app to make it similar to the original app. So, as we mentioned earlier, this is a simplified version of the Innovation Challenge app. You can play around with the tables, the forms, views, business process flows, and create what you want to learn more.